'cause we don't want mom yelling at the top of her lungs. We're just staying alive, down on Kenilworth Drive. Yeah, staying alive, down on Kenilworth Drive. Tossing a ball in the street, in between all the cars. While old lady Mildred counts all her mason jars. Norma saw her move it, pretending she was her brother's date. And Mom gave us a hard time for staying up too late. We're just staying alive, down on Kenilworth Drive. Yeah, staying alive, down on Kenilworth Drive. Oh, let's go have some burgers at the diner right down the street. Let's go play some football in the field right next door to Hope Beach. Wave high to old Louis Woods, fixing stuff in town all over the place. Let's count the stars in my yard and dream of flying around up in space. We're just staying alive, down on Kenilworth Drive. Yeah, staying alive, down on Kenilworth Drive. Yeah. I'm just an old Jersey boy thinking back to the good old days. As I look at our world and the ways that it's changed its ways. Things were simpler, happier, a man, was it quite a time? And I tell you, my heart is still somewhere on Kenilworth Drive. Yeah, we were staying alive, down on Kenilworth Drive. It was the greatest of times, down on Kenilworth Drive. Yeah.
I had no idea the fade was that long. And this thing is still here from last time. What happens if I delete it while I'm live? Delete. I guess it goes on to the next scene now, doesn't it? What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka Multimedia Jay. Hope you something. I hope you all had a happier week than me. because it is Friday night and been a long week, and I've just received quite the gut punch from the IRS. Where do I even start with this? Actually, no, it's Omni Cardioid. First, I get the microphone right. Blue voice on, blue voice off. There we go. Don't need to overproduce this crap. I just got quite the gut punch from the IRS because I did my taxes, and the fun is over. The party's over. I'm going to jail. No, just kidding. So, I paid off my student loans. Then, as a result of that, as well as more money at work last year, my tax situation has radically changed. So, there's a lot of very important details that I completely forgot as I've been going wild with all this Atari stuff. The latest arrival is Mr. Run and Jump for the 2600 and 2600 Plus. Just got this in, and praise be to whatever, it arrived uncrushed from Atari after Amazon sent this in an envelope. So Amazon is still being morons when it comes to packaging very thin cardboard boxes of retro style video game releases. But for those of you who are unfamiliar with Mr. Run and Jump, it's basically the Atari 2600 answer to Mario. When the 2600 Plus came out, there was someone decided to make this or something, or maybe it was a homebrew, I don't know. But it's basically a platformer. If the 2600 had platformers similar to the NES, that's what Mr. Run and Jump would be. This will work on an original 2600 too, so yeah, another cool cartridge to add to the collection, which I will now be taking a bath on because my tax situation has changed radically. I was very sharply reminded that I've had more freedom from student debt than I give myself credit for, because my last payment was in 2023. So absolutely none of 2024 in any way, shape, or form had any student loans. So I've gotten to live like a normal person finally for over a year now. Because of that, though, see, the thing with myself and taxes is that I could never, ever, ever get my tax situation the way I wanted it, which is I want my freaking money. And I don't want to be giving the IRS any interest-free loans of any sort. But year after year after year, no matter what I did to the withholding or anything, I could never get away from getting like $900 to $1,000 back every year. And I could never figure it out. I was like, is it really the student loans? Yes, it was. Without student loans and with the company upgrading their payroll system to one that is extremely on the nose with withholding for tax purposes, with our fancy schmancy new HRIS system, things were extremely close. I still got refunds on both the federal and state sides, but they were peanuts, like under $100. So this tells me that whatever I get is what I get. Whatever I get for take home is what I get for take home these days. So it's all on me. There is no some surprise payout that's going to happen because I can never get the tax situation in line here. So no, I actually lost money on getting taxes done. And this is the sort of thing that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the rest of them talk about, where, not having a free public tax service for people with really simple tax situations like blue-collar Joes with blue-collar jobs and stuff like that, who don't want to mess with, fancy, super amazing, fancy, super itemized deductions and stuff like that. Yeah, not having that option is really a problem. So, yeah. The Atari stuff that I've been doing, thinking, oh, yeah, the tax refund will blunt all of this. No, it's not. I am taking a bath on this, as though I had sunk hundreds on a new video game console. So, not that I wasn't in the position to take a bath on this in the first place, but it's good to know that what I get is what I get, and I'm not deferring on enjoying the fruits of my labor until the IRS releases stuff from under lock and key. Always a good situation to be in. So the student loans were what screwed everything up for 20 years. Always good to know. Well, almost 20 years. I paid him off early. Like a couple months early, just nuked the rest of the principal when it got low enough. And I was like, no more. Not that it made too much of a difference, because the way loans work with student loans, you pay more interest in the early part of the repayment period, and then you knock down principal later in many cases. So, anyways. So, all of this Atari stuff is something I'm taking a bath for. It's something I will be absolutely taking a bath for, whatever I'm up to in terms of the costs. And the thing is, a lot of this is being driven by the threat of Trump tariffs. Trump tariffs are going to make electronics more expensive. And as we've just seen, the Wii U, not the Wii U. Guess who hangs out on E Starland's Twitter X account way too much? The Switch U, I should say, the Switch 2, pre-orders have been stopped in the United States to reevaluate based on Trump tariffs and what they're going to do. So, I've traditionally been biased towards free trade because, it's the way we've done things for like half a century. Protectionism ignores some of the basic laws of economics. The markets create winners and losers. So sometimes America's not going to get it right. We've learned this lesson with multiple things over the decades. For example, cars. My stepmother was pretty fanatical about always driving 70s land boats as long as she possibly could. And she did that. So here's my dad having driven fuel-injected, compact cars for like 10 years, and she's still going out there pumping the living hell out of the cold-blooded V8 because she had to have a big engine in front of her because the carburetor's like a ritual to get the darn car started, and none of the carburetor cars she ever drove ever started on the first try, first thing in the morning. So if she ever had a lousy battery in the winter, she basically would always need jumps. It sucked. It's like a ritual of pump, 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 and then see if it'll start this time, and just, noodle around, play with a choke on some cars. But it's just a total disaster versus just start the thing and go, which is what fuel injection did. ECUs, computers in cars, the whole 9 yards, that sort of thing. She put up with this nonsense. But the thing is, American exceptionalism in making cars was a lot of why that happened. We thought we were the bee's knees until foreign competition showed up with compact cars. And we were like, what are these little toys? And then we have a gas shortage in the 70s. Go figure, right? But either way, so the whole thing with this, the car thing was that sometimes you gotta acknowledge when somebody else does something better than you, which is something we are slow to do as a country. I also think video games are a wonderful example of this. The Atari 2600, the Atari era, had a very, very American gaming industry, and we wound up with games like this is the exception. This Mr. Run and Jump thing, that was the exception. A lot of video games had like no named characters, the screen didn't scroll, things along those lines. I've been playing some of the pre-crashed Atari games from as I've gotten into this whole Atari Renaissance thing. And I'm thinking, imagine if that was our definition of video games and Mario hadn't come along. America lost to Japan with Sega and Nintendo, who brought us side-scroller games, stuff like that. And did America actually win ever again in video games? What did the Atari Jaguar do? Thanks to Atari 50, it has some Jaguar games. We can see exactly, what American, consoles were doing in the 90s. It wasn't pretty. But you think about certain games and game styles that have come over from Japan and whatnot. You think about all of that, and I just think, imagine if we were protectionist back in the 80s when Nintendo was trying to come over here. Now, how many classic game franchises came from overseas while you have to do your digging to learn about, Atari stuff and whatnot? Of course, Bentley Bear was the only named Atari character that I ever knew of, other than Pac-Man or something. But in terms of Atari's properties proper and not licensing something from like Namco or something, the Atari was really bereft of anything all that memorable. It was more like a home arcade machine, which is what gaming started as anyways with consoles. But I just think, imagine if we had the Trump attitude back with what's going on, back when Nintendo was coming over here. Imagine if we tariffed the living hell out of the NES. Turned into a rich people toy. Let's come over here, make them here. Or let's make an American console. Well, what we were making for American games wasn't all that great. We had just had like a shovelware fiasco where there were so many copycat games on the Atari and no quality control whatsoever that the industry imploded upon itself. Toy stores didn't even want to sell video games. That was what our American ingenuity got us. We've gotten better since then, but the thing with capitalism is that markets create winners and losers. So you have to compete. You can't use the government to, eliminate the competitive advantage of your competitors because your stuff sucks. And with all the preaching that the Trumpsters are doing about merit, no DEI, none of this, that, the other, with all the stuff that the MAGAs are preaching about with merit, well, letting the market do its thing is a form of merit. Free trade is a form of merit. And free trade is what keeps prices from being ridiculous. It helps people buy stuff and afford stuff. This is something we've known for a generation now. So, it's ridiculous. But a lot of what's going on with the money I'm spending for stuff like this is the direct result of, well, what's going to happen? How much more expensive are things going to get? Nintendo stopped pre-orders for the Switch 2 to reevaluate the effects of Trump tariffs. So here's my question. What's the price going to be now? People are angry enough that it's $450. And I was wondering if that $450 was before or after Trump tariffs. Obviously, it was before. So, what's going to happen with that? What's the new price going to be? Are we going to end up with Switch 2s that cost as much as PS5 Pros? At least, are we going to not be able to get a console for under $500 now and not be able to get gaming PCs for under like $2,000 or something? Are we really going to bring back those bad old days in the name of what? Some fake patriotism? When I hear like, oh, we're going to bring manufacturing back to the United States, I don't think any kind of blue-collar surge in jobs. I think robots. And ignoring the competitive advantage of other competitors in the markets in other countries. Maybe they have some way of making something cheaper than us. Like, Canada often has like hydropower and other stuff that cuts costs on certain things they make over there. Canada has some advantages over us that make, things worth building in Canada more than the United States. But we're going to deliberately ignore all that just so we can wave a Stars and Stripes flag and pay more for something that could cost less. But we just refuse to do it because we want it made in America. I got news for you. Tariffs or no tariffs, many vendors out there have made in USA sections. And you can see the price difference of what it means to make things locally. Thing is, though, making things locally, I can tell you, is probably going to be robots. American manufacturing has absolutely, gone automated. There's lots of things about, what are we going to automate? What are we going to do? So, what are we going to automate? What are we going to do? So I have no delusions about any people at all bringing a ton of jobs, any companies at all bringing a ton of jobs into the United States. I think that's going to be all robots. There's just so much automation that's available. Either way, as we can see from this channel getting mass abandoned and people being so antagonistic to AI music that I get like 20 views on tech videos within the first 24 hours, I really have to wonder, what exactly am I doing with this channel? Why am I even bothering still doing this? I mean, there are YouTubers who are my age that have quit, and they've made pretty big things about quitting as well. Why haven't I joined them? But here's the kicker with all of this. Now that I've gotten my ass handed to me by finding out the hard way that no more student loans means what I get is what I get, I should go out and get some more so I can afford more of this kind of thing. Especially with what's coming in terms of things being more expensive. And then I went over one of the other sucker punches, of course, came from YouTube. Now, YouTube has been broken for the little guy for a very long time. You will get very aggressive responses from people when you try and have a little bit of common sense. Truth of the matter is, when it comes to YouTube, your subscription to me doesn't matter anymore. YouTube doesn't care that you're subbed to me. They don't care that you're subbed to anybody. YouTube is a search engine. And this is what ruins YouTube for so many people, is that when you're logged in on something or a device, the minute you go looking for something, the algorithm now thinks that you really want to see a ton of that stuff. So unless you're religiously deleting your viewing history to force the system to do things based on your subscriptions again on a regular basis, your subscriptions are eventually going to get lost in the quagmire of everything you've ever searched for. Now, I have been trolled all over the place on here by people who have zero interest in me or what I do. They were just tagging along so they could badmouth me and make fun of me and call me a retard or whatever, those 12-year-olds insults and stuff with the whole computer thing. This was, and I see it in the comments, I see it in the behavior, and I see it in the mass abandonment that's going on with this channel. One of the other punches in the face that I've gotten is that the revenue from the ads was practically cut in half from 2023 to 2024. Now, the big gut punch was when YouTube reclassified the ad revenue sharing as royalties. So now there's no longer a minimum threshold before you have to report it on your taxes. So all the smaller channels that get crap for ad revenue suddenly became taxable. So now that's part of doing your taxes. So reclassed as royalties. So I never hit the ad threshold for the state of Connecticut, but now they're royalties, that has to factor in. Not really talking any significant digits anyways, but to see my ad revenue practically get cut in half from 2023 to 2024 just says everything that I need to know about YouTube. YouTube is not really anything anymore unless you're established and bring an audience with you. It's basically it. There's this culture on YouTube that clickbaits the living hell out of videos, but don't you get sick of that? Doesn't that drill a hole into you mentally, so to speak? That everything has, and only on YouTube does this exist. In a day and age where YouTube is competing with streaming services that have movies, TV shows, web series, the whole nine yards, but normal stuff you can watch without some influencer or whatever begging the living hell out of you to like, comment, and subscribe all the time. Imagine that. Imagine being able to binge watch some show without getting your elbow pulled or whatever analogy you want to use, without getting bugged all the time, to engage. Imagine that. Normal stuff. YouTube doesn't have that, and they encourage people not to do that. And they're even changing the UI these days. To encourage, not clickbait, but engagement bait. So if I talk about click the subscribe button will light up. And if I say like this video, the like button will light up. It's probably doing that right now that I've done that. Like, subscribe. Well, okay, let's not break it. But YouTube has stuff like that in there But, it's just, it gets away from, the quality of what people are making, that videos start looking like each other. And I pretty much have a generic template in my head of what a YouTube video looks like these days. And then there's the barriers to entry. What does it take to make a YouTube video? I mean, I invested in this new webcam because it challenges various cameras in terms of its quality, and it has AI too to work with things as well. The big thing I like is that it has enough electronics in it now to save the settings, so I don't have to set it up literally every single time I use it in OBS. So it also has the pan and zoom, and it's made for 4K, but it's recording 1080. So it has some wiggle room, and it won't lose quality if I have to do digital zooming with it up to a certain extent. So it'll actually pick up way wider angles than what you're seeing right now. I just choose not to use it that way. So I could zoom in and I could zoom out completely digital and not lose quality for quite some time, because what the sensor's made for is way more detailed than what actually gets sent out. Something I've been thinking about too for, my computer setups is for 4K, to take a screenshot with the intent of chopping out most of it and having like a partial amount of it still be full quality, even if I share it on something like Twitter X or something. But yeah, it's just YouTube, because YouTube has had this identity crisis of, on one hand, it's a video entertainment platform that even tries to rent you movies and sell you digital videos, stuff like that. On one hand, it's a video entertainment platform. On the other hand, it's a search engine. Getting the algorithm to distinguish between what you want to watch when you're, knowing when you want to just relax and watch stuff versus, what you're looking for when you're searching, and then there's, how do you tell the difference between the two? So maybe you're interested in like video games and you're searching for a lot of video game related stuff. That's stuff that you want to watch. But let's say you like look up an answer to a question by using YouTube as your like video Google or something. So you go and do that, and now suddenly your feed is loaded with all these videos you only wanted to see that one time. And of course, a lot of what the YouTube brass will say is, it's satisfaction. That's what drives it. Okay, what constitutes satisfaction? How do you tell a computer what a human being is thinking? Because they clicked away? That could be it. But what if they, just didn't have time to watch something? Are you sending false signals to the algorithm now just because, oh, there's a video, let me watch. Oh, shoot, I got to go do something. Click. It's not really the sort of thing that can really be nailed down. And I think it's kind of pompous and disingenuous for Google Text to say that a computer system can be taught to essentially read our minds as organic living human beings. So, YouTube? I don't even know what YouTube's doing anymore. But I can tell you this. The minimum wage increases in the state of Connecticut have assassinated the idea that people have, that we're all, those of us in the partner program are just money-hungry money grubbers who just want to e-bag our way into not needing a job. You realize how big your channel has to be in order to do that? Especially off of just ad revenue without having like a sponsor deal or something like that. You realize how big that has to be? I mean, think about it. What is the minimum wage in Connecticut up to? We're a high minimum wage state, and the higher minimum wage has actually gotten me seriously thinking about some things in a different manner now. Connecticut minimum wage currently is at $16.35 per hour as of this year. Think about it for a second, though. Stupid-ass part-time minimum wage jobs will pay you $16.35 an hour these days. If I want to go put up with Walmart for like the equivalent of an after-school job, that might actually get significant, even with tax withholding and stuff like that. With that higher minimum wage, it sets a higher baseline. So if I just like spend a couple hours at Walmart or something, it doesn't have to be my main job. You just go there, have like a flexible schedule or something, like some teenager going there after school or something. Now, we can get fun money just from that. Don't need benefits because I already get that from having a regular job and stuff along those lines. Don't need benefits. Don't need some of the other stuff. Just do it. So, the people that have come after people like me for, it was these freaks on the internet that were like, it's the end of the world if a YouTuber has a Patreon, or it's the end of the world if a YouTuber monetizes their channel, or it's the end of the world if a YouTuber runs ads. It's the end of the world if you let YouTube actually try and make some money when they struggle year after year, with all the hosting. Of course, they do have plenty of advertising and other stuff. They do have ways of making money. The thing is, they brag about revenue, but I'm curious how that balances out against their operating costs, because revenue is never the whole story with how businesses operate. The thing is, though, YouTube is a joke, money-wise. Whatever year you think you're living in by saying that, monetized creators on YouTube are money-grubbing freeloaders who just want to e-beg all the time. The traditional hostility towards YouTubers monetizing their stuff dates back about 10 years or so. I don't know what year you're living in, but it is not 2025. If I want more money for fun money, YouTube is not the way to do it at all. The fun money for me easily will just be some stupid-ass minimum wage part-time job, doing less of this and more of being of service to others. Just go work at some crappy job just for the hell of it on the side. So anyways, the title of the stream is The What Season. And I'm just chilling here on a Friday night talking about what's going on lately. I suppose now that we're into April and we're heading towards the tax deadline, I should take that tree down. But I will figure that part out later. The what season? Yeah. So this is supposed to be the dead season at work. And because of Trump's tariffs, it hasn't been. We should have had a snoozy, pasoozy last month and a half, and we haven't. What are we at right now? Early April. So February, March is usually when it's snooziest. We didn't have that. Some of that is because of Trump tariffs and trying to... The thing with Trump tariffs in the supply chain is getting the product past customs is the big thing to do. So that way you can either charge higher prices and pocket the money because, the tariffs took effect, even though you bought the merchandise before the tariffs took effect. And so you're making more money per unit off of that. You can either make more money or you can keep prices lower before you have to bring things up. I've heard companies talk literally in both directions. But I'm watching the unit prices on things like groceries and other stuff that I buy just to see what all of this does. So this should be the time of the year where we fire people and it doesn't sting to try and replace them. We don't have that. So I can tell you right now, this place I'm at is putting up with people with emotional problems who are violent, rude, dismissive, and in some cases deceptive, playing trick the new guy with new people who walk through the door. Because they can't get anybody better. And I've been singled out numerous times as persona non grata at multiple levels. Meanwhile, the way others are treated is telling me loud and clear that these people are dropping their standards just to keep orders going out the door. So no, we're not out of the doldrums. And no thanks to Trump tariffs scrambling what should be the dead season. We didn't have one. Now things are picking up. And some of the late effects of scrambling because of Trump tariffs are taking effect. Specifically on the inbound side of things. If you have anything to do with receiving, or can do anything for receiving, you have the opportunity to make more money right now. That's the way things are. So I was tipped off, and I've been blown off, but I'm going to start setting my alarm earlier and brute forcing the issue. Receiving's already running overtime. No surprise, we have a grand total of 2 decent people left for the receiving MHE side of things. But here's the thing. I fundamentally don't believe in this little MHEO civil war that this warehouse has. Production MEOs, receiving MEOs. I don't believe in any of that shit. I want to know all of it, including the receiving side, including the bulk side. Just because we have a nepotism problem and a bunch of managers who've been there forever and they've all been buddy and working together for like 30 years, just because we have a bunch of a giant network of back scratchers in charge doesn't mean that any of us should fall for whatever artificial walls people put up. It's like, that's not my job. That's not my job. Because it doesn't have to be this way. Put different people in charge and things can change radically. There are warehouses around here that don't even have departments because they know that anytime you give people an excuse to point fingers at their coworkers, they're going to point fingers. So don't even bother giving them that. There are some people that will be going in early on Monday, and I know that some of them complain behind receiving's back about having to help them out. Why can't they do their job? Blah, blah, blah. Shut up. Shut up and stuff it. Same team, one building, same team. Plus, if you're already doing the harder, more complicated version of MHEO work, you should not be crying about helping out receiving. It is dull and monotonous, but I don't want to hear it. So here's the thing. The inbound volume is still going to be high because the goal wasn't necessarily to stuff the warehouse full of stuff. It was to get stuff through the ports. So we could be having stuff showing up all over the place because there's a backlog and, of course, trucking. Can we get drivers? Things like that. But all that really mattered was getting the product past customs for the whole tariffs thing. So we are up against probably some of the late-reaching effects of Trump's tariff scramble. I don't know how much things might drop off if things get too expensive and people stop buying stuff. You know, the old demand curve, the old price versus demand curves, if you ever taken an economics class. I don't know how much that's going to screw everything up this summer, but I am actually probably going to activate my overtime alarms. I didn't volunteer to go in on Monday early, but I think I might start setting an alarm to get up at the crack of dawn. Starting tonight. So, you know, I'll just start getting used to it. Knock myself out with some Z-Quil or something a little early and start getting up at the crack of dawn. Because I'm not going to be one of those crybabies that's like, yeah, they can't pull their weight. They can't pull. Okay. So first off, the uniquely gifted management at this place continues to have this stupid-ass artificial divide between people on fork trucks, which I fundamentally do not believe in. Not at all. The egghead guy that is constantly teasing me on the equipment because he's on the other team or whatever, or thinks I suck or what have you, he's still my teammate. If he wants to communicate, I'm going to work with him. If he wants to do anything other than have little meltdowns on his reach truck, I will very gladly work with the guy. I'll shoot the breeze with him too. He wants to joke about stuff or do ball busting, I could do that shit. But first off, the artificial divide sucks. Second, the staffing allotted is lower, sucks. Because the smaller your team, the more call-offs and other stuff affect your ability to get things done. It's the night shift problems all over again on a facility that only has a day shift. So you have that. There was one guy, wasn't all that great for the team. He's gone. And it's been like a revolving door of blah blahs that, you know, aren't going to be in ship shape by the time things pick up. So who else is going to go over there? Us. Why not? I'll just stay over there all day. Who cares? But that's the thing. These guys, they're all over there. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of people that used to do the job now going down there and doing the job. But I think we had one new guy, and he's just screwing up all over the place, then cutting out early on a Friday. I don't give people any kind of free pass. Either they want to work or they don't. There's a lot of people that will silver tongue their way into a job and then use it as private sector welfare, where they suck checks out of a place, but don't really help the team out. Been seeing that for many years. I've been the guy that temped forever because there were no openings or whatever, when the people with the jobs made 1.5 times what I was making, were like calling off on every Sunday for football and whatnot. It just seemed like they got away with everything. Never was given a chance, so I wound up leaving that place. But anyways, the what season? Yeah. It's supposed to be the dead season, but I don't think we're going to have one. I didn't think we were going to have one either. So we're in a situation now where, we can't, clean house without it stinging. We've had zero opportunity, and now we're heading into another peak season in the same boat that we were in last year. So you know what? Screw it. I want my frickin' money. I'm going to get to work on the Atari. First of all, the Atari stuff that's piling up, finish that. Create the precursor for discussion videos. Then we can start looking at what tech videos are going to be in for that season with that theme song. And then we'll see how things go. But I'm actually thinking starting Monday, getting up at the crack of dawn and just going down there and making money. Being the guy who always wants to mop up or whatever. Or start early, get out early. Still going to be more hours if I do that. So it'll still be more hours if I start early and get out early. But either way, there's money to be made, so I think I'll go do it. Those of you folks that are like, YouTubers, they monetize everything. They're money-hungry bums. Well, not when you live in a blue state with a high minimum wage, where you can get some scrap-ass Walmart job if you need more fun money for a bit, and then just quit when you've got the money you want. Go work a summer job or something like that. But I have been stung very, very hard on this Atari thing since I, so now, since I know that's gonna be something I'm not hedging against any kind of tax refund that never materialized. Not that I really should have been doing that in the first place. A high tax refund doesn't really mean anything. It just means that there's a lot of money you could have gotten that you didn't. So we got tied up in something else. In my case, I think I was getting like a deduction for student loan interest. So a chunk of my student loans would be something that got me money back at tax time. I think that's really what did it. But, yep. Fun's over. The party's over. $7.50 at the Geek House. I'm going to get to work on some stuff for this last weekend of fun, because the dead season isn't going to be a dead season. We might see things slow down once we're through this container backlog, and once people start getting nervous about spending money, or they don't want to spend money because of how expensive things are because of tariffs. But while this political crap is sorting itself out, and Trump's like, let's pick a hissy fit fight with Canada and other shit like that. Let's see what I can do to make the best of it. Notice the completely dead chat as well. Yeah, they don't care about this either. Neither do most of the people that supposedly like what I do on this channel. Swear, it's like I got like the worst bunch of mouth-breathing computer junkies that like If I don't make literally the same exact video over and over and over again, which can get you banned for video spam, by the way, if I don't make the same exact video over and over and over again of trying to do the same thing to the same computer, having it not work and making fake hissy fits because of that, I get no views. Who cares? Yeah, Logan, of course you're here. Of course you're here. Where do you think? Of course that like has to come from somewhere. It's just old YouTube gone. I remember when YouTube really was like video social media and had a social component to it. Today, it's some bastard child of like a streaming, like a video streaming entertainment platform similar to like Max or something, and a search engine. And then the algorithm doesn't know what to do with you because, you know, how are we going to train a computer to tell the difference between your searches and what you're really interested and want to see videos about? I know there have been times when I've had to just go wipe my search history with a clear search history button, and then I finally saw some stuff for my subscriptions again. But yeah. In a nutshell, what dead season? The what season? Yeah, it's not going to be a thing. It's not going to be a thing. The overtime for the receivers starts next week. Well, it's already going on, but next week we got some folks that are going to be going in early. I think I'm going to join them. I think we'll stuff a turret near the receiving dock in case I need it. But it's just so. Actually, I think I am Mr. Turret Guy next week. So I don't think it would hurt very much for me to go in and just, as they bring stuff off to go into the big racks and stuff like that, bring the turret around and just be cleaning that up. Plus, I'm the guy that gets singled out. Guarantee you we're not going to have like a second one pop out if things explode. But hopefully it's not like last year, because what happened last year was that ship crashed into the bridge in Baltimore and it stopped the port completely. So everything stopped, and then suddenly shipments got diverted and stuff. So everything died for a bit, and then it surged all at once in June. We were working like 50-hour weeks or something like that. So because we got everything at once, it was supposed to arrive over a span of weeks. Everything that was supposed to arrive over a span of weeks showed up at once because of that darn ship that crashed into the bridge in the ports. Shut up, Avast. Buy our super fancy schmancy service thingy because we found a tracking cookie on your computer. Wow. I'll use Glare Utilities to clean up, or I'll just clean the cookies out of my browsers myself. I know how to do that, dumbass. But either way. Yeah, so we're not going to have a dead season. Hopefully it's not as bad as last year. But the thing is, last year we had that ship issue where the ship crashed into the bridge and disrupted the supply chains. We got everything at once. This time we have a people issue. But I don't want to add to that problem by being like, well, it sucks to be them. I'm in a VTO all the time. I think we're probably going to get more VTO later this year once people clam up and stop spending so much. But we just got to get through this bubble. I think some of this, too, might be a temporary surge because like I said, all these, my once again stream where I say the same stuff like 7 or 8 times. So Trump tariffs scrambled everyone's purchasing habits, scrambled the supply chains as well. The objective before Liberation Day was to get everything through the ports, not necessarily find out where it was going to go. But as long as it was past customs, then, just figure it out later. So I think the surge we're going to have that's causing this overtime is just going to be temporary. And we might actually be kind of bummed out this summer. Regardless, I'm taking the money. I think I'm going to take the money. I didn't volunteer to start early, but I think I'm going to be that guy that they can't get rid of. So, I want to learn that half of it and get better at it. There's only one way to do that. Did pretty well today, though. Everything combined together was like 108%. And I know that the stuff I did with reach trucks sometimes got as high as 133%. So great when I can chain, when I can change stuff together, like dropping things for replenishment or putaways from the receiving dock. When I can chain a bunch of stuff together, it really adds up pretty quickly because I just go. And also, if I'm in the proximity of something, I'll pick it up on the way back, so I'm backhauling stuff as well. So I'll take 2 pallets of something for put away. I'll go put them away, and I'll see something nearby that needs to be taken care of on the way back out and do that as well. So less time spent, yo-yoing back and forth. It is like trucking. That's what backhauls are in trucks. You send a big, expensive 18-wheeler from point A to point B. If there's instead of the truck coming back to point A to start over, if there's something else near point B that can come back to point A, you swing the truck over and get it and then bring it back with you. Spend less time driving around not doing anything. But so that's the thing. I mean, I know enough. I know enough that if you give me the leeway, I'm going to get a whole bunch of different stuff done simply based on what's closer. Simply based on what's closer and whatnot. So, yeah, I'm actually thinking of joining the overtime crew for next week, even if it is like a VTO situation where you go in early, get out early. But, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. We're only at an hour or so, and I didn't really want this stream to be anything all that wild and exciting. But, yeah, there's no dead season. The Trump tariffs scrambled it all. So that's what stop. Just stop. Let's stop rambling here. And let's stop saying things 4 or 5 times. So that the plan this weekend then, set up for commentary videos and tech videos and do the Atari, this stuff that's been piling up. I'm going to have to hard cut that because I actually have some eBay and some other stuff. I'm actually going to get some more games off of Etsy as well because apparently Etsy has Atari games these days. They count as vintage collectibles in today's world. So there are some things I want to peruse and whatnot. We're getting to the point though where I'm running out of stuff to get the collection back together. I just need a shoebox for it all. Then we can cool it with this Atari stuff. But after taking a bath, because there's not going to be any more wild tax refunds that I can hedge things against, after taking a bath on that this year, I'm going to have to check and see what I'm at. Might just make a second payment to the credit card because of this Atari bungle. Oops. Thank goodness I did this with a platform where common title is just a couple of bucks. So it's only the stuff in my childhood collection that's really going to be significant. We'll just say it's like I binged on a Steam sale, except the common titles are like really cheap because it's Atari. But either way, yeah. So if you see things quiet down on this channel, that's what happened. There apparently is no such thing as a normal year anymore, where things quiet down when they're supposed to quiet down, then go nuts when they're supposed to go nuts. But the money's there. I'm going to stop leaving it on the table. Until next time, this is Multimedia J signing off. Thanks for stopping by. I don't have a fade to black on this thing anymore. We'll just do this instead.